Good morning, everyone. So today we're home. The Prime Minister has announced new restrictions due to COVID-19, and it was ordered that all classes for junior high and high school should be held digitally. That's why I'm home today. Unfortunately, I like to be home because it's a convenience for us to have a class from home. I don't like it that we have to do it this way. But here we are. So we're going to power through and do the best that we can. All right, boys and 2 girls. It's lovely that we have technology available that we can do this. We're going to work about 45 minutes on here. I'll be teaching and you will be interacting with me in the chat box. And after that, you will be doing some work on your own. We will have between 1 and 3 rounds of Quizlet Live with vocabulary. After that, we will be allotting some time for you to work on your own. All right. I don't think that people have the books at home today. So we'll be working on things that all you need right now is a notebook and a pencil or pen, or you can type stuff on your computer. You will need your phones at some point. I would really like you all to participate. I will be saying certain things that I want you to write in the chat box. And I want to see that you're typing in there. It's very important that I see your names. I know that some people had some funny names, which you think is so hilarious. And I kind of think it was funny too. Some of the names were funny. They were not offensive. They were just funny. But just for the purposes of what we're doing, if you have a funny name, let me know that that's you. But don't use anything offensive. No mama jokes. None of that. It will be really great if there is none of that. I mean, just don't do that, because if you do, and I kind of already know who's doing it, especially if I see all the names and then there's just a couple of inappropriate names, and those are the 2 people who are not there under their real names, I'll know. Right? Okay, so we spent 3 minutes and 28 seconds of our lives that we're never getting back with this, but we're going to start getting to business now. All right, today we're going to talk about conditional sentences. Have you ever heard about that before? Anybody? Condition. What's a condition? What is it? Anybody? Whatever you write in the chat box, I will respond to. I understand that some of you may be inclined to type really fast, and some of you might be thinking about it still. Doesn't matter. I applaud everybody that participates. For those of you who don't know what a conditional sentence is, I'll show you. Just a second. I'm gonna disappear for a bit. I want you to look at this. Let me move this a little bit. There. Let me get my fat face out of the way. I am wearing pants. So it doesn't matter that the camera went a little bit lower. I'm wearing jeans and a sweater just as I would if I had been in school. Yes, I probably could have worn my pajamas, but no. Let's do the whole thing. Okay, so let's take a look at these three situations here. Let's talk about possibilities. Which one of these sentences do you think is the most likely to happen? There is still a chance that this can happen. If I study, I will pass the test. If I studied, I would pass the test. If I had studied, I would have passed the test. Which one of those? I want you to tell me. Let us just say that me and my best friend were in 10th grade in junior high, right? And we have a test tomorrow. And we have the whole afternoon that we can study, right? And then I say to my best friend, hey, what am I going to say to her about studying for the test? Am I going to say 1, 2, or 3? All of you that have said number 1, you're right. Because that's the real possibility. We're talking about something that's going to happen tomorrow, right? We're going to have a test tomorrow. And if I study today, the whole day, I will pass it. I'm not saying that number 2 is completely impossible, but number 2 casts a bit of doubt. It casts a little bit of doubt on what's happening. Let me explain why. When I say, if I study, I will pass the test, I'm usually talking about a situation currently at hand. There's something happening right now. It's the 4th of January. I have a test on the 5th, and there's still a chance that I can study, right? And I'm planning on it. I'm thinking to myself, hey, I probably should study because if I study, I will pass it. In number 2, it's more of a situation of, yeah, there's a test tomorrow. I'm not going to study for it. I know if I studied, I would pass it, but I don't care. I don't have time for it. I know some people who would have had that attitude. Yeah, well, I probably could do it. I don't think I'm going to do it. Just because, they don't really want to do it. You know what this means? It's not a bad gesture or anything. Remember when we talked about body language and communication with gestures? This, in Brazilian culture, it means I don't care about this at all. It's not something bad. It's not like flipping someone off or showing people the middle finger. It's not that. It's just like saying, I can care less. So let's go through stages. Number 1, if I study, I will pass the test. Number 2, If I studied, I would pass the test. In number one, I have a test tomorrow, and I actually want to study for it because I know that if I study, I'll pass. In number two, I'm not really sure I want to study for it, but I know that if I studied, I would pass it. But there's not a very high probability that I will. Just so you know, I am giving you the academic explanation for this, which is what is grammatically correct. We've talked about this quite often in class when I just got a message from Annabeth. Everybody want to say hi to her? This is completely part of this because Annabeth happens to be my assistant in this class. So yes. Hello, Stig Magnus, who is with Annabeth right now. I think he is. If not, and if I'm making a fool of myself saying this, then forget it. Forget it. Alright, so I have talked to you guys a lot about grammatically correct. Når det gjelder grammatikk, så hvis du ser på grammatikk, er det riktig å si noen ting. Grammatically, it is correct. And there's also something called linguistically correct. And what does that mean? It means that maybe you're not using the correct grammar. Det er mulig at du ikke bruker riktig grammatikk, men at folk forstår hva du sier. So anytime that I say something and maybe it's not grammatically correct in Norwegian, but people know what I'm talking about, that's linguistically correct. And that type of speech, which also includes your dialect, sometimes you use a particular dialect that may not be very easy to understand for everybody, but if you use that dialect and people understand you, that is linguistically correct. Linguistics is more about communication, and whatever is grammatically correct has something to do with academics. I am trying to teach you academic English. So if you take an exam and you write stuff down, I shouldn't even do this. I should do this. So I want you to use grammatically correct English when you write. So I'm giving you the grammatically correct options and the grammatically acceptable explanations for it. It doesn't mean that if you're giving a TED talk and you use something that is not academically acceptable but people understand you, that's okay. You can speak to your friends and send an SMS to your friends, and you can use language that is not grammatically correct, but it's linguistically acceptable. Just as if, let me give you an example of this. If you're writing an exam for Norwegian, right? You have your Norwegian teacher assign you, okay, here you have to write a text. You can't write it in the dialect that you speak. You have to write in bokmål, which is the academically acceptable, grammatically correct way of saying it. So I'm giving you the explanations pertaining to what's grammatically correct. If I study, I will pass the test. There is a possibility that I'll pass this test. I mean, what time is it right now? It's 11 o'clock, and it's not 11 o'clock yet, is it? 10:40 something? And I have the whole afternoon to study and the whole night if I want to. And if I study, I will pass. That there are great probabilities of this happening. In number 2, I'm kind of not really wanting to study, and I'm just saying to myself, if I studied, I would pass, but I don't think I'm going to. So the probability is lower. Now in the third one, your goose is cooked. The ship has sailed. You're really, there's no shot in the world for you to pass this test. Number 3, the test starts at 12 o'clock. It is now 11:59. You haven't studied. There's no possibility for you to study, and you're not going to pass it. You're going to fail it. There's nothing that you can do. Number 3 is like the worst of the 3. If I had studied, I would have passed. Man, look at me. I got a 0 on this test because I didn't study. I didn't care. So I didn't pass. And I probably regret it. Or, it all depends on the tone, right? When you speak to someone, you can say, if I had studied, I would have passed this test. And then you see the desperation in my face, and you see how I'm upset about it. I didn't study and I didn't pass. So I regret it. But I could also be like braggy and be saying, I don't care about this test. If I had studied, I would have passed it with flying colors. I just didn't care to do it. So you can also give a different type of tone to that. Let's explore this a little bit more. I just hit my hand so hard. I'm going to be fine though. Don't worry about me. And then Magnus might be saying, Magnus B, everyone hates you, Pollyanna. Nobody cares if you hurt your finger. Magnus B, I really hope that you were kidding when you said that one day. But if you're not, then it's fine. At least you're showing up for classes. You're doing your assignments. It's all good. See, that was linguistically acceptable, but it's not academic. It's not something that is grammatically acceptable to say. It's all good. It's very laid back and relaxed, and speech that you can use when you talk to people, but you shouldn't really write this down. Let's take a look at a sentence here. I spoke to Carla. She didn't listen. My mom will speak to her. There is a possibility. Let's change there is a possibility to there is a great, fantastic, there is a huge possibility that Carla will listen if my mom talks to her. So I want you to put all this whole situation here together in a conditional sentence. In this conditional sentence, you're going to type in a chat box for me. Maybe some people have already typed it, but if you haven't yet, here is how this sentence is going to start. If my mom speaks to Carla, how would you complete this sentence, this conditional sentence? look at the chat box and see the correct responses, and I want to write down, way to go, yes, that's correct, that's correct. I want to be writing that to you. If my mom speaks to Carla, she will listen. This is conditional sentence. It's the first type of conditional sentence. If my mom speaks to Carla, she will listen. Now, we know that there is a huge possibility that Carla will listen if my mom speaks to her. But now let's change it a little bit, because I want you to produce the second type of conditional when there's not a huge possibility. You're not so sure that it would or would not work, right? How about this? Maybe Carla would listen to Ricardo. Maybe she would. I'm not absolutely positive. With my mom, it was a sure thing. If my mom speaks to her, she will listen. But how about Ricardo? So now I want you to write a second type of conditional for me. Do you want me to? Maybe I'll start it for you. I'll invert it. Carla would listen if remember, if the verb here is speak, to speak. If I say she speaks, that's simple present. For the second type of conditional, the verb needs to be in the... Every time a language teacher goes like this, she's talking about the past. Carla would listen if... Those of you who wrote, if Ricardo spoke to her. Of course, you're more than welcome to start the sentence like this. If Ricardo spoke to Carla, she would listen. That is also correct. Ricardo spoke to her. So we're using simple past here in the sentence because it's the second type of conditional. Carla would listen if Ricardo spoke to her. If Ricardo spoke to Carla, she would listen. All right, now the third type of situation here. Carla is very stubborn. She's very stubborn. She didn't listen to anyone. Carla is very stubborn. She didn't listen to anyone. She failed her exam. They're all going to talk to her about her exam. But she's very stubborn. And she didn't listen, so she failed her exam. This situation here, if you remember what I said at the beginning of this class, which was when we were talking about the 3 types of conditional sentences, we're talking about this here. If I had studied, I would have passed that test. If I had studied, I would have aced it. I would have passed it with flying colors, but I didn't, and I flunked it. I failed. If I had studied, I would have passed the test. So look at the structure here. Let's look at the structure because I want you to create your own sentence, but you need to pay attention to the structure. What do you need here? Had. And what do we have here? We have the verb. Let us go back to junior high, if you still remember it. When you were given a list of verbs, give, gave, given. Drive, drove, driven. Study, studied, studied. So some verbs in that 3rd column, they stay the same. Some verbs change into something else. And you can even compare it to Norwegian, right? Don't make fun of my pronunciation. I'm doing the best I can here. So you have å drikke, drakk, and then if I say I have drunk something, right? I will say jeg har drukket. So you have 3 forms in Norwegian. Å drikke, drakk, drukket. So think of these verbs, and you can even use the verb to drink. Drink, drank, drunk, right? It's the 3rd column of the verb that you're going to use here. With study, study, studied, studied. That one is easy because it has the same one for the 2 other forms. But let's just take a look here. Rest of the structure. So the if part, if, had, plus the verb in that 3rd column. Now the other part, I would have passed. You're always going to have I would have plus, and again, if I had studied, again, I would have, 3rd column of the verb, I would have passed. If I had eaten, I wouldn't have been hungry. If I had looked both ways before crossing the streets, I wouldn't have gotten run over. So you're always going to think you have get, got, gotten. 3rd column. I wouldn't have gotten run over. So let's take a look at what we're dealing with here. Let's go back to Carla. Stubborn. Doesn't want to listen to anybody. People are trying to tell her, hey girl, if you study, you will pass. She didn't want to listen to anybody, so she failed her exam. I want to see what you can come up with. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you. If Carla had listened to people, Please complete the sentence here and give me a third type of conditional. I'm sure that some of you will go straight to, you have failed her exam. You can go straight to that fail and you can use that exact verb there. If she had listened to people, then you use the negative form, because she wouldn't have failed. She wouldn't have failed her exam. Now, some of you may take, instead of to fail, you can use pass. And in that situation, if you choose to use to pass, then you are going to use a sentence in a positive, affirmative way. You can still start, if Carla had listened to someone, she would, positive, affirmative, she would have passed her exam. I'm fine, don't worry. If she had listened to someone, she would have passed her exam. Now, I'm going to give you some sentences that you should all be paying attention to, because you're going to work on these sentences after we finish this lecture. You're going to complete. You don't have to complete them now, but you have to start having ideas and thoughts about it. If you want to write in the chat box, that's fine, because you can also replay the video later on, and you can go right in and you can watch just this part where I have written everything. If you can watch it, rewatch it and write this down. Or you can write it down now. Or better yet, I can send a copy of it to Nicholas and Eskil, and they can send it around. If not, we should definitely create a group for us on Facebook, like I have one with the girls. And I know you're like, oh, I don't want to add you to my Facebook. It's just for the purposes of this, right? But I'm going to figure something out, and I'm probably typing in the chat box right now what I'm going to do. Don't worry about it. It's all going to, it's going to be okay. Let's not start with if. How about this? I ate too much. I have a stomachache. So let's use number one as an example. You're going to create a conditional sentence here. So I am really, really regretful of my actions, and I shouldn't have eaten that much. If I hadn't eaten too much, I wouldn't have had a stomachache. I know it's kind of strange. Have had. Yes, have had. And I believe you can also use that type of structure in Norwegian. Jeg ville ikke ha hatt. Maybe it's a bit strange, but people can use that, and it's grammatically correct. I wouldn't have had a stomachache. So you're going to get two sentences. You're going to get two sentences from me, and you're going to combine them into a conditional sentence. Number two, maybe I will receive a gift. Kanskje skal jeg få en gave. Maybe I'll receive a gift. I will thank the person who gave me. How about not gave me because they haven't given it to me yet? Who gives me the gift. Maybe I will receive a gift. So you're going to combine these two into a sentence that starts with if. Let me just give you a hint. There is a huge possibility that this is going to happen. Remember, first type of conditional, huge possibility that's going to happen. The second one, maybe not such a great possibility. And number three, there is no way it's going to, your possibilities are gone. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. So my hint here to you is that here there is a huge possibility. Number three, I am not sure I will call Ricky. He always answers when I call. But I'm not so sure this time. Having said that, I am not 100% certain. So when the possibility is not as great as if I call him, he will answer. That's not the case here. I don't know that he will. So it's not the first type of conditional. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm just going to give you a little hint for this one. If I called, complete this. All right? And don't forget, let's go back to the beginning. I'm almost done with this. We're going to do our Quizlet. We're going to do our Quizlet rounds really soon, and then I'll let you work on the sentences on your own. We're almost done. I know that people get a little annoyed when this goes on for too long. Okay. Maria talks to Jade every day, and Jade always acts really nice. See if this changes anything. Nicely. Let's take the really nicely out of here. I feel like this is probably more appropriate for speech. That's why Microsoft Word doesn't like it. So Maria talks to Jade every day, and Jade always acts nicely. So she has a great, huge possibility of talking to her today She will, I'm not going to say too much. I'm just going to give you the beginning. If Maria talks to Jade today, remember that between these two clauses, you have to put a comma. Punctuation. Those of you who forget punctuation a lot, do not forget it. If clause, if da 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 da, comma. Da 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 da. That's how it has to be. I just got a fright, a little bit of a fright. It was just my phone. I'm fine, I'm not crazy. My mother had me tested. If Maria talks to Jade today, number 5. Here is a situation that's a little sad because there's nothing that you can do now. Remember, what kind of situation is that? There's nothing that you can do. My cat disappeared. Katten min försvann. My cat disappeared. I left the door open and he went out the door. Now I don't know where my cat is. So there's nothing that I can do about this anymore. I left the door open and the cat went out the door. I don't know where my cat is. I'm just going to start it and you're going to finish it. If I hadn't left the door open, you're going to complete it. Another situation. Peter destroyed his phone in anger. You know, when people get really mad, they're playing a game on their phone and they lose or something and they just throw the phone on the phone. Well, throw the phone on the floor. I don't know if there are many people who do this, but let's just think about Peter here. Maybe Peter did this. He destroyed his phone in anger. He was angry. He can't call his father. I'm going to start the sentence a little bit differently for you to complete it. I'm going to start with the would have been, the would have part, and you're going to give me the if part. He would have been able to call his father if. So now you get to work this into the sentence. Just a couple more, guys, and we're going to go on to our Quizlet Live segment. Meryl is rich. She can buy a new house. Maybe she will give her mother a car too. So Meryl is rich, has a lot of money. She can buy a new house. Maybe she'll give her mother a car too. She has a cousin Melvin. Melvin is not rich. That's all that I'm going to say to you about this whole situation. If Melvin, I'm going to give you the if part. If Melvin had been as rich as Meryl, what would he have done? Last one. You're going to work on all of these last ones on your second part of this class. Joseph is unsure about his decisions. He thinks maybe Catherine will say yes to his proposal. He is not very positive about it. So this is the second type of conditional. Think would. Would. I would buy a car if I had money. Probably wouldn't because I don't have a license. Let's change it. I would drink some Pepsi if I had a glass of Pepsi here. A glass of Pepsi right here. I would drink it if I had it. So if Joseph asked Catherine to marry him, she, and you're going to complete it. Okay, 2 ladies and 19 gentlemen, you will be working on the second part of this class with the sentences here from number 1 all the way up to number 8. I'm going to make them, okay, I had a great idea right now. I'm going to make them available on my website. I'm going to put a link to it. And you will find all the sentences there. I'm going to try to send them to as many of you as possible. I don't have the contacts with me here for everybody because my work computer is at the school. I had no idea that the Prime Minister was going to pull this one on us and have us stay home. Otherwise, I would have brought it with me. See, if I had known about this that's happening right now, I would have brought my computer with me, my work computer with me. So I'm going to spread the word around, but it's going to be in enough places that you don't have an excuse not to have it. I'm going to drop it everywhere. Email, on here, and on my website. And the link is right there. Having said all that, and it's been a long, long time since we started. Let's do just the one round of, let's just do the one round of Quizlet Live. Okay, just the one round. Get the code and go straight in, and we'll do the one round. get the code, and go straight in. The code should be there right now. Get the code and go straight in. There are 21 of you, and I expect to see everybody in. We may play a couple of rounds. We'll see how it goes. Not too many rounds because you need some time to sit down and actually work on the conditional sentences. So I'm going to want to see remember, I need everybody to be in. 19 of you should be in for me to start. As soon as I have enough of you that I know that we can have a game of Quizlet, we're going to start. All right, if we have enough people, we should be starting right now. Actually, like if it were in a test, I'd probably take them both as the correct answers.